Hello, I'm Joe,
And TJ,
and we are the Schoolhouse 302. And this is our Read This segment, which is a part of our One Thing series podcast. This is the book that you should read this month or in the future months regarding appreciation. We featured our blog this month completely on appreciation and ending the school year on a high note. And, sometimes we take this for granted, TJ. We don't realize that the end of the year is of critical importance, and we put so much effort into getting the beginning of the year right, but we argue you have to set it up so the end of the year is just as strong. If you doubt us, if you doubt what we believe in our philosophy around this, that's where we lean on the research, Dan Kahneman's peak end rule, and what he describes to us about how high notes work and how and what sticks with individuals. And if you want to have a successful summer, build some momentum going into the summer, and then really set the stage for a successful beginning of the school year, we got to do it right this time of year, which is May. And one of those key ways to do it is start showing appreciation. So we have our book this month, Lead with Appreciation. And TJ, why don't you share with our audience a little bit about why you love this book? And if you want to, we're not familiar with Melinda Miller, the co-author, but we do consider Amber Teamann a friend of the Schoolhouse 302.
that's correct. And she was on the podcast too this month, and we got to interview her about the work and the peak end rule and what it means to be a principal at the end of a school year, a school leader, a teacher, and just ending the school year strong. It is what people will remember as they go into the summer. Um, People remember the peak end, and like Joe said, with Daniel Kahneman's work, and then a school year, the peak and the end are at the same time, and it's right here in May and June as we send people off into the summer. And we want those cul-de-sac conversations to be positive all summer long, so that people come back with an awesome feeling. And so that what I like about this book, I want to say two things that are really cool. The first is that this book is a culture book, right? It says right in the subtitle, it's a culture of gratitude. And what we also know from John Gordon's work is that you can't be negative when you're expressing gratitude. So if you want a culture of positivity, one research-based way to do that for all of the human brains who work in your organization is to express gratitude and for a feeling of gratitude within the culture. I really like that about this book. The second thing I wanted to say to listeners, Joe, is that the book chapters, for the most part, are set up in the months of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So they go through the book and they talk about the things that you can do to lead with appreciation in months by month, ending in chapter 10 with teacher appreciation and chapter 11 with administrator self-care. And so I thought that was a fantastic way to organize a book. And, as voracious readers, we like to look at the structure of the book and the writing of the book and what features a book has, and that's a phenomenal feature, and I think it's a reason to pick the book up. Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. And that I think that's what we would dub a power performance tip, because it's structured that way, TJ, as a principal or any school leader can start planning appreciation ahead of time. Appreciation cannot be an afterthought. And so when we plan it, and as this is done, you can put that in your calendar ahead of time, plan for appreciation, plan for those events. They're not surprises. And that's when things are done well. And this is written by practitioners. That's what's key about this. I think that's why it's structured in a way that makes a ton of sense for people. But I also have two things I want to just quickly jump on. This book touches on that not everybody receives appreciation the same way. We all have our, love language or appreciation language. They delve into that somewhat in this book. I appreciate it. They also mention the enneagram. We featured Kaley Klemp on our podcast. Loved it. She is a performance guru, out west, and really is an enneagram specialist. So that was near and dear when I picked this book up and I saw it, because not everybody receives appreciation the same way. So know how to give it and what's going to be meaningful for the receiver. That's critical. So I think that is something that people need to realize. So it's the languages, it's the enneagram, and then the other thing that I love about this book is it's littered with primary resources, pictures, literal pictures. As a visual person, I don't like wrestling in my head when I read something on what it should look like. That takes mental energy for me. So I like that in this book quite a bit, all the primary resources. So that's a couple takeaways from my point of view.
How about a tip, Joe? Any reading tips for people out there who are thinking, man, I'm trying to read a book a week, 2 books a month? When we interviewed Nick, we had him on 302 Thoughts, and he's just
He's a
consumed.
beast.
He's a beast. He's taking in two books a week, this guy. Any tips on that?
Yeah, well, let's first acknowledge, this is a pretty thin book. And so that's what I like about the Dave Burgess books. And this is a Lead Like a Pirate guidebook. So this won't take that long to read, but I actually think the tip with this book is read it with a team. This doesn't even have to be the principal's reading. This can be your teacher leaders that read this book. If you have a sunshine committee, get your sunshine committee to read this book. If you have a PTA, get your PTA involved. So often as a leader, we think we need to do, and that's true, but sometimes you need to have a group really coach you on what should be done. So my big takeaway for a book like this is, yes, you're leading with appreciation, but it's chock full of ideas. Let others read it and say, you know what? I think we put this together. Make that your summer reading. Make appreciation the focus this summer, so next school year is all about it, and let your sunshine committee run with it. You want to improve culture, like you said, TJ, you want to improve morale, run that with that to the bank and it'll pay off.
That's a great tip. Delegate your reading. Have other people read for you. That is a great tip, Joe. Maybe one of your best. I do agree with it wholeheartedly. I buy some books for the PTA and the Sunshine Committee. What a great way to get them to come to you with ideas versus always thinking you need to be the idea machine as the leader. That's it. Read this series, the Schoolhouse 302. Don't forget to check out the schoolhouse302.com for blog posts, podcasts, and so much more. Always on the topic of leadership. We'll see you next time. We really appreciate the like, the follow, and the share.